Title: Sparta's Leadership, King Archidamus and the Peloponnesian War. Introduction: Introduce King Archidamus II, who reigned during the critical years leading up to and into the early phases of the Peloponnesian War. Known for his caution and pragmatism, Archidamus urged restraint and foresight, qualities that contrasted with the more aggressive factions in Sparta. State the thesis. As a skilled strategist and diplomat, Archidamus played a crucial role in shaping Sparta's approach to the Peloponnesian War. His leadership highlighted a nuanced Spartan perspective on warfare, balancing caution with a recognition of Sparta's limitations, but his cautious strategies were eventually overshadowed by the more aggressive military leaders who sought decisive conflict. Section 1. Archidamus' Early Life and Leadership Philosophy. Background and Rise to Power. Briefly outline Archidamus' background, lineage, and his ascent to the Spartan throne. As a descendant of the Euripondid line, one of Sparta's two royal families, Archidamus held a respected position but faced significant pressure from influential Spartans who were eager for direct confrontation with Athens. Describe how his early experiences and diplomatic inclinations shaped his philosophy. Archidamus was known for his level-headed approach and belief in calculated, long-term strategies, which often placed him at odds with more hawkish Spartan factions that favored immediate action against Athens. Leadership philosophy and approach to war. Archidamus viewed war as a last resort, emphasizing caution and preparation over hasty engagement. He believed that Sparta should be fully prepared for a prolonged conflict before challenging a powerful adversary like Athens, which was well-equipped with resources, wealth, and a formidable navy. His approach reflected a broader Spartan ethos of restraint and pragmatism, focusing on sustainability and minimizing risks to Sparta's stability. Archidamus was particularly concerned with the potential economic strain and long-term impact of war on Sparta's resources and citizenry. Section 2. The Archidamean War and Initial Strategy. Reluctance to enter the war. When tensions with Athens began to escalate, Archidamus urged the Spartan assembly to pursue diplomatic channels rather than resorting to immediate military action. He warned of the challenges of fighting a prolonged war against a well-resourced Athenian empire, stressing the need to secure allies and prepare for the financial demands of conflict. Despite his advocacy for diplomacy, Archidamus faced significant pressure from Spartan allies, particularly Corinth, who demanded a strong response to Athenian expansionism. Ultimately, Sparta declared war in 431 BC under the pressure of its allies, marking the beginning of what would become a protracted conflict. The Archidamean strategy, siege and attrition. Once war was declared, Archidamus adopted a strategy of attrition, aiming to weaken Athens through annual invasions of Athenian territory rather than engaging in full-scale battles. Each year, he led Spartan forces into Attica, hoping to pressure Athens into surrender by disrupting its agricultural base and creating economic strain. This strategy relied on slow, persistent pressure rather than immediate conquest, reflecting Archidamus' cautious approach. He anticipated that this gradual approach would wear down Athenian resources over time, avoiding the costly risks of direct confrontation with Athens' powerful navy. Section 3. Challenges to Archidamus' leadership and internal Spartan tensions. Conflicts with aggressive factions. Within Sparta, Archidamus faced opposition from factions that criticized his cautious approach. Many Spartans, particularly younger and more hawkish leaders, were impatient with the slow progress of the war and sought a more direct confrontation with Athens. They believed that Sparta's superior hoplite forces could achieve quicker victories through decisive battles. This internal conflict highlighted a division within Spartan society. While some admired Archidamus' pragmatism, others saw it as overly conservative and believed it risked missing opportunities to overpower Athens more directly. This divide foreshadowed later strategic shifts as more aggressive leaders gained influence. Economic and resource strain on Sparta. Archidamus' cautious strategy was partly motivated by Sparta's limited resources compared to Athens. Sparta's closed economy, dependence on the Helot class for labor, and lack of a robust naval fleet meant that it was financially vulnerable in a prolonged conflict. Archidamus understood that a drawn-out war would place immense pressure on Sparta's resources and social structure. This economic reality reinforced his belief in the importance of building alliances, both within Greece and with Persia, to sustain the war effort. However, his warnings about the costs of war were often dismissed by those who underestimated the strain that a protracted conflict would place on Sparta's economy and military. Section 4. Archidamus' legacy and the shifting Spartan strategy. End of the Archidamian War and strategic shifts. The Archidamian phase of the war ended with the signing of the Peace of Nicias in 421 BC, a temporary truce that reflected Archidamus' preference for negotiation and containment. Although he did not live to see this peace, the treaty was aligned with his vision of a cautious, less confrontational strategy. However, the peace was short-lived, and soon after, Sparta's strategy shifted to a more aggressive approach under leaders like Brasidas and later Lysander. These leaders abandoned Archidamus' caution, focusing on decisive engagements and alliances with Persia to directly counter Athens' power. Long-term impact of Archidamus' leadership on Spartan strategy. Although Archidamus' cautious approach was initially sidelined, his influence on Spartan strategy left a lasting legacy. His focus on sustainable, long-term engagement provided Sparta with a foundation that helped it withstand Athens' naval and economic advantages. In retrospect, Archidamus' understanding of Sparta's limitations highlighted the importance of alliances and cautious resource management. His leadership demonstrated a strategic mindset that balanced restraint with resilience, qualities that were crucial to Sparta's endurance, even as later leaders took a more aggressive approach. Conclusion. King Archidamus II of Sparta exemplified a leadership style that valued caution, pragmatism, and long-term strategy, qualities that set him apart from more aggressive Spartan leaders. His contributions to Spartan policy during the early years of the Peloponnesian War emphasized patience and careful preparation, prioritizing sustainability over rapid gains. Although his restrained approach was not fully embraced by his successors, Archidamus' influence helped Sparta navigate the challenges of prolonged warfare. Ultimately, Archidamus' leadership reflects the complexities of Spartan military philosophy, which combined restraint with a calculated understanding of power. His legacy serves as a reminder of the importance of balancing ambition with caution, illustrating the value of measured leadership in times of conflict. The lessons from Archidamus' tenure provide insight into Sparta's endurance. Offering. Section 1. Archidamus' early life and leadership philosophy. Background and rise to power. Archidamus' lineage as a member of the Euryponid royal family positioned him in one of Sparta's two hereditary kingships, which traditionally shared power with the Aegead line. His upbringing and experiences shaped his views on governance and warfare, instilling a preference for stability and foresight. As a young leader, Archidamus witnessed the challenges of maintaining Spartan supremacy in a volatile Greek landscape, experiences that influenced his cautious approach to the Athenian conflict. His early observations of the regional conflicts preceding the Peloponnesian War likely contributed to his understanding of the complexities of Greek warfare. Archidamus knew that Athens was not only a formidable adversary due to its wealth and navy, but also a state driven by a population with democratic ideals and a strong national identity, which required a thoughtful approach. Leadership philosophy and approach to war. Archidamus emphasized long-term planning, advocating for a conservative approach to warfare, grounded in Sparta's strengths while recognizing its vulnerabilities. Unlike many Spartans, who believed in quick, decisive land battles, Archidamus understood that Athens' naval supremacy and extensive resources would make a traditional campaign challenging. His stance underscored his belief in balancing Sparta's military prowess with diplomatic caution, preparing for a war of attrition rather than one of swift conquest. This philosophy was not without its detractors, as Sparta's warrior culture traditionally celebrated aggressive action and decisive outcomes. Nevertheless, Archidamus' approach reflected a strategic realism that recognized the need for preparation, alliances, and adaptability, values that would become crucial as the war unfolded. Section 2. The Archidamian War and Initial Strategy. Reluctance to enter the war. Archidamus was initially hesitant to engage in full-scale war with Athens, understanding the potential costs of a prolonged conflict. As tensions escalated, Archidamus proposed using diplomatic measures to address grievances rather than resorting immediately to military force. His speeches to the Spartan assembly emphasized the risks of underestimating Athenian resolve and the potential for resource depletion if the war was prolonged. However, the pressure from Spartan allies, particularly Corinth, eventually led to a declaration of war. Corinth, an influential ally, resented Athenian interference and perceived a strategic threat from Athens' growing power. Archidamus' attempts to delay the war reflect his understanding of Sparta's need to consolidate resources and seek advantageous alliances to counterbalance Athens. But his cautious approach was ultimately overruled. The Archidamus strategy, siege and attrition. With war declared, Archidamus led the Spartan strategy of annual invasions into Attica, employing a strategy focused on siege and attrition. Each year, Spartan forces invaded Athenian territory, laying waste to farmland and attempting to pressure the Athenians into submission by disrupting their